Hey guys, welcome to Pillbox Movies. I'm Hank, and today we're going to be continuing on with part 3 of the series Fanny and Alexander by Ingmar Bergman. In case you missed the first 2 parts, you can find them here, but what's been going on so far is in part 1, we were introduced to the expansive Urkdal family, of which Fanny and Alexander, or Alexander and Fanny. Fanny hasn't really been in this too much so far, but they're the children of Emilie and Oscar Urkdal, who run a local family theater. In part 2, Oscar falls ill and dies, and Emilie, in her grief, marries Bishop Edvard, who is a total dickhead. And things don't seem to be turning out very well for our stalwart protagonists. Emilie has quit the theater, and it seems to be in financial dire straits. Bishop Edvard has given the condition that if Emilie is to marry him, then she must renounce all of her worldly possessions and come live with him in his priestly hovel with Fanny and Alexander, and they went through with it. Everybody's worried. Alexander is getting struck a lot in the head by Bishop Edvard in an apparently affectionate way, but we don't love the body contact there. So let's see what part 3 brings for our child protagonists, our child deuteragonists. Svenski film industry. Svensk. You know, I was close enough. I'm enjoying this so far. It's interesting to see kind of the evolution of Ingmar Bergman's techniques. I am mostly familiar with his earlier work, his kind of like more philosophical or more kind of conceptual works, and then of his family drama years or his color years. The most I've seen is I think 2 episodes into Scenes from a Marriage, and that, at least in my memory, was very, very kind of like anti-filmic and tried to be as dry and unimposing in the camera work and in the editing as possible. But Fanny and Alexander, to my surprise, has been very purposely designed and has a lot of kind of filmic flourishes. So it's been fun kind of discovering that. We're back with the Urkdal family with matriarch Helena. Ooh. We love a summer rain. A daytime rain. I like her waistcoat. Or her waistcoat.
Hello?
Or her vest.
Nej, är det du gamle Isak?
Ooh, Isak is back.
Alla har övergett mig.
Oh my god. Helena is so hysterical. And I don't mean funny. Like I said, summer. Oh, and the previous episode, I think, was during spring, because it was during this thawing of the snow. So I think this is going to be designed around the seasons. Yeah. It seems like she's being separated from her family. Her husband's extended family. It's always time for cognac, Jesus. Oh, Jesus. They look like they're in an actual prison. Poor children. What time is it? Why are these adults such assholes? I will say, for as seemingly intractable as their maid is, she seems to be on their side. The children who died? Who drowned? This maid is like just like my sister. She like wears her glasses crooked. Oh, that sucks. Especially with all of the imagery of the river that's been coursing throughout this movie. Okay, now I'm nervous. The ghosts. This movie has more jump scares than I thought it would.
Han hade skällt ut mig. Ja, jag kommer inte ihåg vad det var.
Classic Alexander.
Då såg jag först den ena lilla flickan i dörröppningen. Hon bara sprang förbi. Liksom på tå. Det hördes. Och där. Starkt belyst av solljuset. Stod frun själv. I sin svarta
So many ghost stories in this.
vag. Nästan
I really like it, but it comes as a surprise.
Jag vill att du ska veta vår hemlighet. Din styvfar, min man, låste in mig och mina barn i sängkammaren.
You like kind of wonder whether or not he's making this up, but it kind of like it. If Alexander's can be seen as a proxy for Ingmar Bergman, it kind of speaks to like this idea of storytelling being like a passageway between the truth and a lie. If this is something he actually experienced, or if it's something that he's kind of inducing himself to experience through telling it, through telling the lie.
Och drogs ner i djupet.
Det var som djävulen.
Hon ligger. Hon ligger, tjej. Samma.
Han är en sån där som pratar han.
And we don't get confirmation whether or not the story he told was like real or imagined, or if he made it up or not.
Hoppas domkyrkohelvetet gick åt helvete. Tänk om Gud straffar dig för att du säger sådär.
Men så stor pösmunk som han straffar en sån liten skit som Alexander förstår lite. Det var precis den snuskiga jävel som jag misstänkte.
Wow. Edgelord Alexander. Oh boy. We don't like seeing an overturned carriage like that. This ghost keeps showing up. This like looks exactly like the art direction for Little Night Music, the revival with Catherine Zeta-Jones and later Bernadette Peters. Which is weird because Little Night Music is based on Smiles of a Summer Night.
Sitter här och blir melankolisk och tänker att tiden blev bra kort.
That is very much what mothers are like.
Jag ängslar mig kanske i onödan. Man inte har någonting som sysselsätter tankarna så börjar man...
Man, Ingmar Bergman really has a beat on this kind of like, I don't mean to be diminutive, but hysterical housewife.
Sen dess har verkligheten förblivit trasig. Underligt nog känns det riktigare på det sättet. Så jag gör mig ingen möda med att få den hel igen.
That's an interesting idea.
Inte om att ingen...
That grief is like this galvanizing event that kind of shocks you out of your normalcy or your sense of normalcy.
Oskar, min kära gosse. Ja, mamma. Du är ledsen. Jag oroar mig. Du oroar dig för barnen. Ja.
Stick upp genast. Min styvfar vill ta
Alexander, min gosse. Du har i närvaro av din syster och Justina beskyllt mig för att ha mördat min hustru och mina barn.
Va?
Fanny, har du hört Alexanders berättelse?
Nej.
Nice, well done. Good on you, Fanny. You've got the right loyalties.
Det är en dödssynd att svära falskt, Alexander.
You know, it should be a moral sin to abuse power.
Ed och
It's weird that that wasn't discussed as a moral sin. I hate that back of the neck grab. What an asshole move. That's such Trumpian hand movement.
får skända en annan människas hed. Tror du att vi leker, Alexander?
Jag tror att biskopen hatar Alexander. Det är vad jag tror.
It's a smart friggin' boy.
Så det är vad du tror.
Do you deny it?
Då ska jag berätta någonting för dig. Någonting som kanske kommer att förvåna dig.
Don't say it. It's gonna be the worst coming out of your mouth.
Jag hatar dig inte.
Yeah, sure. There it is. There it is.
Men kärleken
No thank you. No thank you.
jag hyser för din mor och din syster är inte blind och inte mjäkig.
It is the righteous and blinding love of God.
I am filled with Christ's love.
God!
Hör du vad jag säger, Alexander?
Nej.
I would love to have been this brave when I was this young.
Du förhärdar dig.
Unimaginable fortitude. Alexander, you are the face of defiance.
Envis. Så skäms du naturligtvis.
Jag har glömt vad det är jag ska bekänna.
Jag ser det så. Du förstår att i min barndom så var man inte så hjärtnupen. Det är en helt vanlig beskedlig matte.
Man, screw you.
Rätt bra. Och hjälpte inte
I hate that these ladies just be sewing during all this. Or knitting, rather.
Varför måste jag straffas?
Yeah, why?
Det är ju alldeles självklart.
I mean, essentially, you're being
Du har nämligen en svaghet.
punished because of your lying.
Men så länge du bara är ett barn och dina lögner
But realistically, you're being punished because he wants to control you, because he doesn't like you.
och livet.
It has nothing to do with whether or not you're trespassing. It's because
Straffet.
you're a threat to his authority.
Älska sanningen. Erkänner du också att du begått mened?
Jag gör väl det.
Har du vunnit en stor seger, Alexander? Segern över dig själv.
Oh god. This dude sucks. He's like full on Dolores Umbridge shit.
Brottningen resinoljan eller mörka skrubben?
Apparently he still needs to be punished.
Rottingen.
10 slag, varken mer eller mindre.
Då väljer jag rottingen.
Böj dig framstup.
I hate that. I hate all of these grabbing of the nape of the neck. I hate how complicit Henrietta is. What bad people. What terrible people.
Du har något att säga mig.
Nej,
Du ska be mig om förlåtelse.
det gör jag inte.
Thank you. This is also blocked wonderfully.
Tillfälle.
I think this was like these shots were chosen in such a perfect way to like capture or hide specific emotions with each exchange. The way that was the way that they chose to block that scene, they chose really specific ways of orienting the cameras orienting the actors towards or away from the camera, that you only saw specific emotions happening at once. Usually for this kind of scene, let's take Lawrence of Arabia, for example. There's also a torture scene in Lawrence of Arabia involving like a cane or a whipping. The way it's framed is that it has this really specific, how do I describe it? Like directional framing, where everybody's kind of like facing the same trajectory, facing the same kind of cardinal direction, so that you kind of get everybody's sense of you get a kind of directional sense of emotions that kind of like peaks at Lawrence's face and at the face of the man that's like kind of holding him down. So you had the commanders and a couple of officers in the distant background, and then you had the guy who was whipping Lawrence kind of in the middle ground, and you had Lawrence like splayed out with his face like head on, and also the guy who's holding his arms. But there's kind of like a clear kind of like trajectory of the faces and the blocking, so that you kind of got everybody's emotions at once in the master shots, and then it would cut closer and closer in to the important facial reactions of Lawrence, and it's like highlighting the performance of Peter O'Toole, and also the emotional state and the changing of Lawrence's emotions and the breaking of his will within the course of that scene. In this, you have something that's very, very, very different, actually. Almost with the same rules, but like subtly changed to kind of redirect your focus and where your kind of like attention and allyship lies. This scene was blocked in such a way that it was also kind of like a head-on framing. This was playing like on a pretty straight line, all very, very, very much closer to like a 90, 270 degree angle if we kind of perceive camera right as being 0 degrees. This had the camera facing down the barrel with like the actors facing either directly to camera or directly away from camera. And that's like, that was like a kind of like an interesting way to kind of see Alexander's emotions either full on or completely shut off or blocked off or abstracted. In a technical or logistical sense, it's good to do that sometimes, to like cut away, make it easier to cut away from your child performers, because sometimes they just can't reach it within a take. It's like harder for them to like reproduce like kind of difficult or extreme emotions every single time you do a take, and so this kind of like relieves the burden of that, the burden on their performances. But also on like on a level of technique or a level of storytelling, it kind of balances the scene differently. And we're meant to identify with Alexander and with his plight and with his suffering, but this scene isn't strictly about that. I think it's much more accusatory on this. It's supposed to be juggling between that and the inhumanity and the grotesqueness of Bishop Edward's actions. We're meant to see Edward's reactions and his performance in this scene. And there's kind of like a cutoff point where the scene stops being about Alexander's defiance and his spirit, and it becomes about Edward's cruelty and his need to dominate and to subjugate. That's kind of true of all scenes to a degree. All these torture scenes kind of try and balance out the dynamic between the perpetrator and the victim, but usually for I'd say for most film scenes that involve torture, we're meant to stay with the tormented, not the tormentor. We're meant to identify their suffering and relate to that and sympathize to that, and it helps kind of endear us to our protagonists. But this makes the kind of stated, I kind of say from my impression, this makes the stated goal of turning the camera lens onto the tormentor and making this be a study of behavior for them, and make us as an audience kind of confront what a person who abuses power is like in these situations, what our tormentors look like, what people who abuse power look like, what people who are hypocritical and use proselytizing or use morality or use their kind of ethical high ground to inflict pain on other people look like. So I don't know. I thought this scene was like blocked really well and told kind of a story of two faces really efficiently. Really? I mean, you were in grief, but really strange position you've put your children in. So, I mean, you're a little bit into BDSM, that's fine. Just don't make it like a lifestyle that affects your children. Yeah, religious guys do be like that, though. Haha! Thumbnail!
Emilie, du måste lämna honom.
Yes. Yeah, that shouldn't affect your decision. Okay. Okay. Don't drown with your children, please. Oh yeah, we have the Kramer versus Kramer issue where traditionally women are not treated well have not been treated well in the events of divorce. As a side note, I've always liked Helena's purple eyeshadow. I like how light it is. That's a cool shot. That's more painterly than I'm used to seeing Sven Nykvist do. Look how colorful and vibrant that shot was with like the little bouquet. Another cool compositional shot with the Jesus statue in the background. I am worried that this is like implying something, maybe a little bit deeper going on. I hope not. I hope in, the worst kind of way that it's just corporal punishment and not implying other kinds of abuse.
Alexander. Jag heter Pauline. Hon vill att vi ska straffa dig. Att han låste in oss. Det är inte sant.
Like, as a side note, in a Nyquist kind of way, they don't have highlights showing.
Men isen brast. Vi kom i vattnet.
Something that,
Vår mor försökte rädda oss. Men strömvirveln drog oss ner under isen.
Jeff Cronenwith also did in Blade Runner.
Det är om händer och fötter.
Henrietta, get out of here. Jesus. Nobody likes you. Emilie, you really gotta get them out of here. You've made a terrible mistake. I'm glad you recognize it as a mistake. This is like a serious situation, and you need to get them out of here.
Fru Tander undrar om du vill ha något att veta.
Jag är inte hungrig.
This movie does really escalate like Game of Thrones. There's just like villain on top of villain on top of villain. Or like Matilda. Matilda had the parents and then Miss Trunchbull. Or like Harry Potter.
Vi hade egentligen beslutat.
We decided.
Jag förstår att beslutet har ändrats.
Ja, det har ändrats.
Sover han?
Nej, jag sover inte.
Då kan du också svara mig när jag önskar dig god.
Alexander önskar inte biskopen en god natt.
If you could actually laugh and just let it go, that'd be great.
Du har humor, Alexander, och det tycker jag.
But you won't. You're gonna harbor and resent that shit.
Why you?
Why me? I don't know. Everything about me he finds offensive. You think it'd be a waste of his time.
Please don't strike her. I won't be happy.
Nå, träffade du din svärmor och dina släktingar? Ja, det gamla vanliga. Svårt att skilja fantasi och verklighet. Men vi redde ut begreppen.
I love that. I love the idea of beating the imagination out of children.
Alexander önskar inte biskopen en god.
Look at that. He didn't think it was funny. He really does resent it. What a complete jerk-off.
En kärleksfull bestraffning kan aldrig vara förödmjukande.
So then why are you humiliated all the time?
Hänsyn har ingenting gemensamt.
Du ska tala om kärlek.
Tillåter det att vara hånfull, Emilie.
Love that passive voice for you.
Du skadar barnet med sådana tankar.
Oof.
Var försiktig med vad du säger.
We're going full Godfather Part 2.
Slöshet har du låtit mig ta ansvaret. Inte bara för dina barn utan också för dig. Jag känner mig som en frukt.
Always with the hands.
Jag är en vanlig människa med stora fel.
I don't usually think of
Av ett mäktigt ämbete.
I don't usually think of Bergman as somebody who's like deeply affected or influenced by Bresson, but this seems like a very Bressonian movie. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. Wow. Yeah, like I said, I don't usually think of Bergman as somebody who's like influenced or has like kind of a special relationship with the works of Bresson, but oddly enough, this episode really kind of made me think about kind of like Brissonian themes of defiance or escape. Like I compared this part or this episode specifically to like a man escaped. Like this is about defying the will of an oppressive regime and kind of the difficulty but necessity for the human soul to have defiance in it and have the ability to stand up against evil or oppressive forces. This episode was like, I wasn't expecting this story to take the courses that it would. I kind of felt like I was kind of to understand that it was to remain in kind of the family drama aspect of it, and just kind of like stick with kind of the bourgeois comings and goings of the Urkdal family and their kind of middle class or upper class kind of struggles. But really, it really has like changed and evolved, and Alexander's story has like progressed in kind of really, really subtle and interesting ways, and seeing how he grows up. Like, I don't know, it's a really cool story. It's a grown-up version of Matilda. You kind of take it for granted that these like stories for like children or adolescence is about like, growing up and finding out about love and finding out what it means to be a child and an adult for the first time, and like navigating like understanding concepts like death and whatever. But this is hard shit right here. I really came to love the Alexander character in this episode. I like appreciated him as a child and as like a burgeoning artist in the previous episodes, but in this one he really came into his own identity as somebody who wrestles with the hypocrisy of adults. Yeah, this episode was great. This has been my favorite so far, and I've loved these past 2 episodes. Yeah, I can't wait to see how all this resolves. So yeah, that was episode 3. That was part 3 of Fanny and Alexander. I can't wait to get into the 4th episode. If you enjoyed this, click the like button and subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this. I'm really excited to see where part 4 goes. I'm excited to arrive at the conclusion of this series, and I hope you are too. I hope you enjoyed this and that it really like gave you a lot to think about. Definitely check out Fanny and Alexander if you haven't before, and let me know your thoughts. I also really loved that this is like has been like kind of like quietly a ghost story the entire time. I think that's such a lovely take on what childhood feels like. It feels like a half-remembered ghost story. I think that's a wonderful approach, really. So yeah, let's get ready for part 4, and in the meantime, keep watching good movies. I'll see you next time.